It is finally on the way. Hello everyone and welcome to the Murat Milestone preview. This is on the Strike Team preview build, so there might be bugs and so on. It's an alpha build, and yeah, some changes will be done till this comes out, but it will come out early next week, and from my playing experience with it so far, doesn't feel like there's any major issues anymore, so it should be shipping early next week to you all, and I'm really looking forward to have this on the monthly tournament, which you can find the sign-ups down below. The monthly tournament for May will start next week, and it will have a prize pool. So yeah, if you're interested in competitive play, check out the monthly tournament for May and sign up for that one. But let's talk about the stuff we get, and the stuff is good. We got the ATGM teams, as you can see here, the Toes 2, the Ito, the Milans 1 and 2, the Fagot and the Conquerors, and then two recoilless rifles as well in these teams. So that's the first big change. The stats are what you expect. The penetration is the same as for the vehicle mount, as is the range, and they all have exceptional stealth, so you can be pretty sneaky with these, which is cool and gives especially infantry divisions a way of fighting back against those big tanks. And especially with the high-end ones, the TOW2, the Milan, and the Conquerors, you can dish out quite a bit of damage to enemy armor, and they are a lot of fun. So yeah, this is the first big change. Then there is the infantry rework, together with a couple new infantry units that come out in general. I guess we have to click it this way. For the Soviets, the new infantry unit is the Pulemechiki, which comes for both the 79th and the 39th, in addition to the ATGM teams. It got 3 PKMs, and as you can see here in the stats, infantry weapons got a rework. You can read about most of these changes in the latest dev diary, which I will also link you down below. Yeah, infantry time to kill has been increased quite significantly. So infantry fights now are way more drawn out, so you have more time to interact and react and micro in infantry fights. It's not just, oh yeah, 2 units meet and one implodes and the other one stays on the battlefield as the winner after stunning the enemy in a quick split second. Also, MG3s ain't as OP anymore, so balance-wise, this is a big one as well. And as I said, there's a couple new units. CQC units also now win 1 versus 2 in CQC situations. For example, the Flame Pioneers of the NVA are pretty good now in winning against anyone with their flamethrowers, because they don't get stunned as quickly by hitting 2 normal squads of infantry, so they can use their flamethrower efficiently against those. And also CQC weapons like flamethrowers or satchel charges didn't got nerfed in power, so dedicated anti-infantry also is now better at being dedicated in anti-infantry and so on. So overall, a really good change for the balance. And for the Americans, they got a similar unit, which is the Gunners, which has also 3 medium machine guns. The categorization and so on has been changed. Some ranges have been changed, and as I said, damage has changed significantly in a really good way. Another change has been made to air, where speeds have been adjusted a bit, so the fastest planes are not as fast anymore. And that is good, because that allows also for more air micro and a bit more reaction times in the airplay. Yeah, but still having a significant advantage over the slower planes with something like an F-15 Eagle. Like, it still flies 1,400 kmh. Comparing that to example, the Alpha Jet with only 700, that's still a significant difference. AA-wise, the big offenders got nerfed as well. Especially the Shilka is now 90 points instead of 50. The Gepard is now 120 points. It got a slight buff in performance though, a bit more range against helicopters and aircraft. So that's why the price got doubled on this one. because it's also a performance buff, but Sparks are now a bit more pricey, which is good, because they were a bit too cheap for what they were doing beforehand. On the pivot, it got a slight range reduction against aircraft. It's now on par with the Shilka, but it's cheaper. So that's the advantage for it, by having though slightly less damage output as well. And now let's move on to the really big part of this patch, together with the reworks, is the two new divisions that we will get. One of them is the 2nd Panzer Grenadier, which, as you might expect, is a Panzer Grenadier division, so it has a lot of infantry. But yeah, in this department, the only new unit is the CH-53G Munition. That is a 2000 supply helicopter, but it's a bit too pricey in my eyes for being really worthwhile. If it would be slightly cheaper, I would say this would be a cool unit, but for the price, it's not quite. It's a chunky helicopter though, so I really like the looks of this, and I hope they will adjust the price a bit. In the infantry department, you get Fallschirmjägers. You obviously get the Milan teams, 3 of them, 2 Milan 2 teams, 1 Milan 1 team. And then you get a lot of the units you already know from the previous deck, from the 5th Panzer. You get the Heroes, you get the Feldjägers. You also get the Recaller's Rifle. But yeah, then Panzer Grenadiers in all the different forms, Pioneers in all the different forms. With the Fox Milan, which got an increased price now, so it's a bit better balanced as well. So 5th Panzer shouldn't be as obnoxious anymore, but it still will be good, and so will be this division, because first of all, better infantry choices, more infantry slots as well as 5th, and in the tank department, you get a hell of a lot of Leopard 1s. You get 2 cards of the Leopard 1A5 and 2 cards of the Leopard 1A1. Artillery tab is nothing special, it's exactly the same, basically, but with its also same availability, I think, and the same slots as 5th Panzer Grenadiers. So till we get towed artillery, this will be identical. Once we will get those, this tab obviously will change, so that's why it's also looking so empty at the moment. With towed artillery, this should change somewhat. In the tank tab, you also got 1 new unit. The Belgians have arrived. As they said, sadly, don't have Belgian voice lines yet. They will only get those once we get full-on Belgian divisions, which will not be with the base game. So for now, we have to be fine with British voice lines, as this is also a British vehicle. The CRVT Striker, which is a somewhat fairly priced ATGM vehicle. I would still say it should go down slightly to 60 or so, but at least it's not in the 160 or 170 range of a Jaguar, though it's also performance-wise not quite on the same level as those. But overall, a pretty strong tank tab. Obviously not a super great amount of slots. You only get 2 cards of Leopard 2s, but you can spam a lot of those pretty strong and cost-efficient Leopard 1s and 1 card of M48s. In the Recon tab, you also get more new units, which really give this division a nice flavor. More Belgians. And these come with the Scimitar and the Scorpion. Both really funny units, and they will make this division really dangerous in early game engagements, as obviously these can be forward deployed. And imagine running into 18 forward deployed vehicles at the beginning of the game. Especially as this also can fire onto helicopters. And this has 10 penetration, so it can deal with light armor. And even some lighter tanks like a T-55 or so. If you spam them with these super cheap vehicles, you can overwhelm a couple of T-55s, for example, as well. Though T-55s obviously cheap themselves as well. But for getting an early advantage and early ground advantage, these will be cool. And overall, nice recon units. You also get the Fuchs Razit with its exceptional optics, or the normal looks, if you want to go with those options. And the Eclairer, Okay, I'm not trying to pronounce that right. The Belgian recon unit here. Not the greatest itself, but it also comes in a new vehicle, the Spartan, which is nothing fancy either, but hey, it's another new good looking unit, so that's cool. First German recon helicopter as well. Helicopter tab is the same as 5th Panzer, but air tab has some lovely new toys for us. It has the Ginas, really old bombers, but they're also really dirt cheap. 743 kmh, not the fastest obviously. Horrible ECM, but they're you can spam them out. They reduced overall availability of airplanes a slight bit though, so air spam is not quite as viable anymore, which is a good thing. Even though I'm a guy who air spams myself quite a bit, making it so that you have to invest more points into it if you want to do it, and so on, is a good change. And I'm a bit worried about this air tab, though after playing it twice now, I don't think it's completely busted, but 40 points for a plane, especially now that spucks are a bit more expensive, feels really cheap. So we will have to see if the Ginas might become problematic. Especially they also have a 30mm gun. Then you also get the Harrier, which is a slight bit too slow at the moment. Like, it's a slow plane, but it shouldn't be that slow. It's a fighter you get. 30mm gun, 4 Sidewinder missiles for 130 points, though I don't think it's worthwhile at the current speed. Then a Gina with Sidewinders and napalm bombs, so that's why the price is a bit higher, because it can defend itself against other planes a bit better. Then the classic tornadoes we are all used to already, including an ATGM version and a cluster. And then a tornado fighter, which is really cool looking. British pilots in these with Skyflashes. So some more long-range air-to-air capabilities for the NATO forces with these tornadoes. Some more high-level fighters, as this one is pretty strong. 30 ECM, good speed. Not quite F-16 level, but still. And as I said, the Sidewinder plus Skyflash combo, especially as you get 4 Skyflash, should be pretty strong. And then a really expensive Seat plane with 3 of the alarm anti-radar missiles. But 358 seems a bit too high, especially as the ECM ain't higher. It's not a super high ECM plane either, so I would say this should go down a bit in price before it becomes effective. 358, 85 points, even though it can defend itself thanks to the 2 Sidewinders and so on, still seems to be somewhat pricey. But yes, that's the second Panzer Grenadier, a really cool looking one. AA, currently a bit lackluster. I skipped that tab. It will get Hawks most likely though, once we got towed equipment. So with that, it will get a bit more choices and a bit more uniqueness compared to the Rolands of the 5th Panzer Division as well. And Gepards are pretty strong, so Gepard plus Fliegerfaust plus Tornadoes should keep the sky pretty clean for you anyways, even though it's obviously not a good AA tab in compared to 5th Panzer with the Rolands. But let's move on to the other division. And that other division is the 4th motorisierte Schützendivision of the NVR, with it also getting a supply helicopter, but nothing else that is fancy in here either. But it also has a lot of infantry, and it also brings in Fallschirmjägers, the NVR version of it instead of the Bundeswehr. So yeah, NVR looks. And the Fallschirmjägers also are the first ones to bring in Medis for the East Germans. So you get some ATGM infantry, but only 1 card, and only 4 of them. So you won't see many of these, but together with the Fagot and Conquerors teams, you should have enough ATGMs now on the battlefield anyways. And other than that, you get the classic Mod Schützen, and also one of the 3 LMG units comes in this division as well, with 3 PKMs in a 7 man squadron. So quite a lot of variety. Infantry deck building now should be quite a bit more interesting, as you have so many more choices than before, and a lot more specialization that you can do with your decks. Like, do you want to go heavy on ATGMs? Do you want to go still mass infantry spam with mod Schützen and so on? Or elite with Fallschirmjägers? Deck building has become quite a bit more varied, and I'm all for it. So, at least in the infantry department, that's a big one. In the artillery part, there is still the towed artillery missing. With those, that deck building there will also become more interesting. But you have something new here as well, anyways. You got the big boy, the Smirch, the 300mm rockets, and they are surprisingly affordable in supply, so you can shoot them quite a lot out there. The Smirch is a strong unit on paper. I still am not super happy with artillery performance, even for the Smirch. It doesn't feel like it deals the damage it's supposed to deal, but overall, it's cool to have it in the game now. The biggest rockets possible. And yeah, looking forward to see these working on the battlefield and making everyone who still has shaky cam on really annoyed and somewhat motion sick. So yeah, turn off shaky cam, guys. It's just eating your performance. And yeah, let's move on to the tank tab. Tank tab, obviously one of the weaknesses of this division, as it only has T55s. It gets 2 cards of the AM2s, but only 1 card of each of the other ones. The normal A, the AM2B, with the Sucklos ATGM. And you get 2 cards of Conquerors, but Conquerors is still overpriced at the moment. Once these get cheaper, this might be a bit more competitive over tab as well. Currently, it's all about the T55s, and I'm not the biggest fan of only having T55s. Like, T55s are cool, but you want to have something that can hit up as well. And the T72s give you that capability in the 7th Panzer. Here you lack that a bit. In the recon department, though, you have a lot of cool stuff. It's pretty much similar in the vehicle department to what you got with the 2nd Panzer Grenadier, as you get the BRM-1 with the 73mm, and you get the BT-76 with the 76mm, which also has 10 penetration. So you can also shoot at light vehicles with this and kill them off with this, and one-shot unarmored transports and so on. So these will be super annoying at the start of the game, as you get also 9 of them, and 40 points is really cheap. Or you get 6 on high veterancy. And you also get some really cool units here. As yeah, you might be confused at first if you're looking at these units, because they have American uniforms, right? Well, that's the point of them. They are false flags units with American equipment, supposed to work behind enemy lines in false uniforms. And you have 2 different ones with 2 cards each. You have the Einsatzgruppe, Fallschirmjäger, and the Fallschirmjäger Sprengtaucher that will help you out here. And yeah, the other one being the Fallschirmjäger Sprengtaucher, where you get satchel charges compared to Laws and M249s versus this somewhat better, but only being able to fire event static M60s. So, an absolutely insane recon tab in my eyes. Availability is a bit on the lower end on these infantry units, but you can also still use Aufklärers, which have insane availability instead of one of these cards. And you can put so much pressure on the enemy in the early game with these units. They give you a lot of firepower from the get-go that can be deployed forward. In the AA tab, it's what you expect from East Germans, Strellas, Koops, Schilka, and some Strela infantry. Yeah, I like the combo of Koop and Schilka. Koop with 4 availability now, so you can spam them quite a bit, and for 90 points I feel like they're pretty fair. And if you can get 2 or 3 out of them, they usually get their job done. Helicopter, you have a lot of options. You have rockets, you have AA for only 100 points, but it also only has 3 damage missiles, and that feels really lackluster, especially as you only get 1 per card. So you can't even double team them and then try to shoot down something. So as a AA unit, this feels pretty underwhelming, but you still at least get 40 rockets. So for one part, you might want to take that. And then you got a couple of AT helicopters, some with Saklos, Falanga Peace, and then some with Kokon. And then a couple more rocket helicopters. This one even has Malyutka? Where does it have Malyutka? Okay, that looks a bit odd. Me ATP. I expected it to be only rockets. But you also get this beauty with gun pods. A couple of 12mm, a couple of 7mm. As you can see, it's a hell of a lot of guns. I still have to test this, but it looks like a pretty funny unit. I wonder how it will perform on the battlefield. If it will actually shred infantry. Depends, obviously, on the damage output of these guns. And then, in the air department, as you can see, we got one more new bird here as well. We get the MiG-29, which is an absolute beauty in my eyes. One of the most beautiful planes in the game. Maybe the most beautiful plane in the game. A really nice design when it comes to optics. And it also comes with a really good long-range missile, the R-27, but it only carries 2 of them. And then a couple more short-range R-73s. Other than that, it's what you already used to from these Germans. Some MiG-21 bombers, some Su-22s. As you can see, slightly reduced availability, only 3 per card instead of 4 per card now on all of these, which is good. Yeah, reducing their spam slightly. Though on these you still get 4, which might need to be changed. I would say cluster should go down to 2, but it's a nerf that is necessary. And overall, as I said, a really cool looking division. The Fallschirmjägers, the new recon units, giving it a quite unique vibe. Smirch helping out with that as well. So, yeah, it gives you enough units to really feel fresh, from my experience so far. And I'm really looking forward to Murat, and I hope you do as well. And I hope we see it ASAP, like early next week, and then seeing it in the tournament, seeing it in some multiplayer games, and playing it myself in ranked. I can't wait. So yeah, see you all, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider following and sharing and commenting what you like the most about the divisions to come, and see you all next time. Bye bye.